So in case it escaped your notice, we're in a new year. This is like so fabulous, right? And in case it escapes your notice again, come the end of January, the 28th to be precise, we'll be in another new year. And then, just in case you don't notice, come the 14th of April, we'll be in another new year, which should tell you that time really is something that we are manipulating all the time in order to create schedules. And when we declare 2017 the year of living intentionally for this center and for the network that holds the center together, or is the center, we said what we want to do is be aware not only of what we're creating in our lives and how we're becoming in that space. We want to be aware of how we're utilizing consciousness, the various levels of it, physical consciousness, emotional, mental, spiritual, energy in other words. And we want to be conscious, we want to be aware. We want to be aware of gravity acting on us and the stars acting on us so that we recognize that we're part of a bigger system. But then we also wanted to be aware of what is the framework of reference. So I have these discussions with my guides, and then I go have these discussions with my students. I get to talk about the same thing at least 5 times so that I understand it better, which works because it's a lovely review. And we know in the spiritual pathway, everything needs to be reviewed. We have to re-look things. We have to look at it from a different point of view. We have to experience it from another aspect in order to say we fully experienced it, or to say that we understand it better. My experience is that we never fully understand things. And that as we grow, different aspects of understanding come together so we can say, oh, I know that better, or I have a better understanding of that, or my consciousness is more aligned with that. So part of the work of living intentionally is to open ourselves up to the different aspects of any one given part of our lives, and to live those different aspects with as much awareness or as much mindfulness or as much consciousness, using the words interchangeably, as possible in any one moment. So some of the discussions we've had is about what is past, right? We've talked in this meditation group about what is past in this lifetime and what is past in other lifetimes becomes available to us in the now moment. So consciousness says, in my physical body, I have information as memory in my head, in my mind, mentally. I have memory in my cells. My body remembers things that I don't even know that I know. At a cellular level, the body is regenerating different organs in accordance with the information it already holds. So although we can regenerate a whole new liver every 3 weeks, it looks the same as the old liver because it's regenerating all of the old information. And all of the writers of Ayurvedic medicine, for example, have taught us that if we change the information that is sitting at a cellular level, we can change what is being regenerated into that organ in a method or in a way that either heals it or creates disease in it. So from what we are thinking, from our attitudes in the world, what aspect of self we bring to things, what consciousness we hold, we can create dis-ease and discomfort and distress in our bodies, or we can heal it. More recently, scientists have been talking about how you can change your DNA by changing your thinking. And of course, when they talk about changing your thinking, they oversimplify things. You can't just switch off the way you think. But what they're talking about is we change our thinking, change a recurring pattern of behavior, and in turn, change a genetic composition, a predisposition, if you will, to specific experiences of dis-ease and discomfort in our bodies. Part of the problem with all of this is that the human ego always thinks about changing what is not good. It always bases it on a judgment. I want to change what isn't working. I want to change what is bad. So we make a judgment about it first, which is an ego framework that says I reject it, and then I'm going to change it. The spiritual life says, that's what it is. So I accept it, and then I'm going to change it. And whatever it is, we don't have to decide that it is good or bad. We don't have to decide that it's positive or negative. The experience in your physical body tells you whether it's positive or negative. If it's creating pain, the brain is going, that's not good for me. Even if it is. Now most people will tell you after the fact that, oh, I'm so glad that happened because it was a wake-up call. That pain was such a blessing. It got me to pay attention to things. And yet we persist in saying that this pain is bad. It's a negative thing. I must change whatever's creating the pain instead of changing who I am underneath all of that. So what are we talking about? Okay, just to consolidate, what are we talking about? We're talking about how we get fixed in a way of dealing with something without actually dealing with the something. So we can deal with it here on the surface. We can be mindful, we can be conscious, we can create experiences, we can go into understanding it, etc. But underneath all of that, where there is a system of judgmental ego in place, deciding what it is first, before we're actually even experiencing it, that's where we begin to fall flat. So I was saying to a good friend and client of mine today, you cannot actually live a spiritual life, and I think I said this to you as well, because this is what the discussion is about with my guides. You cannot live a spiritual life inside of an ego framework. How can you use a foundation that is in itself biased, judgmental, non-accepting, and then create your entire house on it? That's like building a house of cards, because by the time you get to the roof, what is sitting here in your foundation is still determining the rest of the structure. It's determining the pathway. It's determining everything actually, and all the growing and developing and becoming that you're doing is still based on what the ego would call the wrong thing. Spirit would say, oh, now when you get to this level and you're about to put on the roof, you realize that something's not quite right. So you go and make shifts and changes to the plans, and before you know it, you're creating a whole new floor again. So in spirit, when we do that growing and becoming, we talk about reaching a glass ceiling and breaking through that. And there are no new experiences. There are no new issues. They're all the same thing, but at a different level. So we've created a whole new floor and a whole new foundation, and we start growing and building again, and then we get to another glass ceiling and another glass ceiling and another glass ceiling. Now you all know how very impatient I am with the world. Did you not? You nodded. I bet a few people over there are nodding as well. And then of course, I'm very impatient with spirit as well, because I say, let's sort this one out. Let's get to the root of it. What needs to change? What needs to happen? You know, I don't have time. The clock is ticking. And they say, relax, you've got all eternity. In fact, you've spent a whole eternity getting here. But if you want the faster route, go right back to the foundation. Always going back to the basics and saying, what are you building this spiritual life on? So the year of living intentionally says, I must stop and I must see. What is this value that is determining everything that I am creating in my so-called spiritual life? If my meditation is feeling restless, I'm still anxious, although I'm practicing my meditation all the time, what is sitting under that? What's sitting inside of us, regenerating itself every time we're creating ourselves anew? Because remember, the physical body is the grossest form of what we're doing elsewhere. It is a manifestation of what we are doing elsewhere. So if I keep manifesting the same discomfort, the same dis-ease, the same distress, that's a clear indication that something's not changing and that I have to go to that. And we are not medical doctors who are going to give you a medication or even a meditation to soothe it. We always have to go back to source. And that's what spirit does. It says, I go back to source. I go back to the beginning and I change what is there. Now you and I can't easily go back to the very beginning of who I am through all creation. But we can go back to the beginning of what we know here. And what we know is sitting in every level of consciousness in terms of who we are, in terms of what we're bringing into our lives every day. So right there at the bottom, when we say, what is your value system? What is this box? I don't want to use the box, because then we're going to say start living out the box, right? I laughed earlier when I said it as well. We don't want you to live out the box. Make your box nice and neat and all of that, but make sure that the box itself is spiritual. I mean, even when we watch television, we have a decoder. Yeah? It's a box that receives all of this stuff, decodes it, and sends the signal through so you get a clear picture. This physical body is exactly like that. It's a decoder. It's receiving all of these signals all the time and giving you a not so clear picture, because we're all not tuned in to the right wavelength so that the picture is nice and clear. And so part of this getting the box right, getting the foundations right, is about tuning in to the correct wavelength, getting the signal right, maybe turning the satellite dish a little. So many mixed metaphors. Completely. But all of this work that we're doing on the spiritual plane, and when you've been doing it long enough, it just seems so tedious and such a lot of work that's getting you nowhere. So right at the very beginning, in the foundation, you have to accept, one, I don't know. So the work is coming to know. Two, all this work is going to lead me to nothing and nowhere. I'm going nowhere. There is no pathway. There is only a becoming inside self, and that becoming inside self shifts and changes the way the world is perceived by you, and in turn reacts to you or responds to you. Because we live predominantly in an unmindful world, a lot of it will be reaction. Some of it will be uncomfortable reaction. Some of it will be wonderful reaction. But that spiritual foundation says, it's still a reaction. It's actually not my business. So ultimately, as we're doing this work and becoming something, we might not be able to pin it down and say, oh, I added a window here, or I put in a light bulb there, or I've painted this red and that blue. We can't pin it down. But eventually you wind up with a whole picture that you can see clearly is now you. And when you recognize that, then all of the work, all the becoming, becomes worthwhile. So for some people, the spiritual pathway is a lot of hard work for nothing. And their nothing means that it's been a waste of time. It's been a waste of energy. It's been a waste of money, because the spiritual pathway is so easy to sell these days. You know? It's such a wonderful thing. You come in, you pay your fee, we send you there. And as long as you're doing what you're told, then we can almost guarantee you'll get somewhere. Who you're being while you're getting there is neither here nor there. Right? I mean, we have people, you know, when people climb mountains, they have porters, other people who carry your baggage and your burdens for you. Well, you can do that on the spiritual pathway these days as well. But that's not a spiritual pathway. That's a pathway that is sitting on that ego foundation. All of the self-development books start by telling you there's something wrong with you. You need to be fixed and repaired. And because you need to be fixed and repaired, this is a judgment you must make about yourself and agree with about yourself in order to now develop and grow. The spiritual pathway says, I am as I am. And I accept that. I like that. Now whatever I'm becoming is actually an understanding of who I am. It's a becoming inside out of what I was born with. It's a becoming inside out of who I really am, so that I'm not identifying with this physical body and its separateness from everything else. So although you can find those self-development books that say, I am perfect, almost after that there'll be a big but that says, let's go and do this and let's go and do that. The spiritual pathway says, stop doing. Get quiet. Look inside, and where there is distress, go and heal that. And every decision you make is a decision that takes you either closer to the healing yourself or distressing yourself. If you take a decision that says, I like who I am when I do that. I like where I'm going when I do that. I like the people I'm doing that with. I can be light. I can enjoy that. Then you're creating a decision. You're creating an experience that is taking you closer to healing, closer to peace of mind, closer to enjoying or activating the joy of who you are. If you are making a decision that leaves you feeling stupid, leaves you feeling from a pride perspective that, oh, that wasn't the right thing to do. And the minute pride gets into it, it's ego-based again. The minute you think, oh, those people did that and those people did that and I did this, we're back to ego, we're back to judgment, we're back to non-acceptance. So that is the decision that's going to take you away from yourself, take you away from the peace of mind and create a distress that you don't require. But every decision is in fact a series of decisions. So even as you've decided to do it and somebody reacts, you now have another decision. How am I going to respond to that? Do I even have to respond to that? And that's what the living intentionally is about. Because the world is always going to be with you. Whether you are going to be with the world or not is yet another decision. And every decision reveals an aspect of you to you. As small as it is or as big as it is another judgment. But every detail that is you, that is living in your body while you are unconsciously breathing, is still you. And those details are there. They are there from this lifetime, they are there from aeons of lifetimes, they are there from the linear perspective of past, present and future lifetimes, and of course, they are there in terms of your connectedness to everything. So when we look at consciousness and we say, I am consciousness, and I am at consciousness active in the world, then everything becomes available for you to work at becoming nothing. And that is the conundrum of being spiritual. I am working with everything to become nothing. In other words, I am gradually uncluttering every identity that I associate with myself with, everything that I think I am, in order to be nothing, in order to be ultimately everything. And meditation is that one space where you come here once a week and you sit quietly and you practice being nothing. Unfortunately for you, you pay me to talk the whole way through this being nothing. So one of these days you're going to come and I'm going to say sit. And I'm going to say nothing. And you're going to feel how nothing being said feels like. But mostly, this sitting quietly and getting into that space where just you and nothing exist is one way of glimpsing this presence that we all live in inside out. Because that's that life force that's pulsating through everyone and that is making all of this consciousness that I'm talking about, that is making every experience possible. Because without that life force, nothing is. Now you're going to confuse the whole nothing, right? And nothing isn't. I tell you, language is very limited. English is a very limited language, and even if I said this in Spanish, it would be really hard, because I wouldn't get anywhere further than hola. But this is the thing about language. Even language, in its limitations, is based on that ego structure. Everything we know in the history of humankind, and Maris will tell us this, even the way history is written, is based on that ego structure. And the only place that you can rescind that ego structure that judges first and evaluates from a basis of greed ultimately, because everybody wants something. On the spiritual pathway as well, everybody wants something. Enlightenment usually. As enlightened as they are, they want enlightenment. And when the Dalai Lama says, before enlightenment, carrying water, chopping wood. After enlightenment, carrying water, chopping wood. There's no reward. The same life, the same dramas, all that's changed is you. And how you are reacting or responding to that. And nobody believes that. The ego drama underneath says, when I'm enlightened, I'll have that big fancy car. Because that's what all of the secrets of manifestation have been taught. Get spiritual in order to get everything you want. Get spiritual in order to beat the world at greed. And so we are all getting very unspiritual to be spiritual. That doesn't work. So I'm going to throw all the books in the library away now. Isn't that so? Because I own all those books as well. You see, even I played this game. But that's part of the journey. Everybody starts the journey and we go through it. We play all the ego games. We play with those boundaries. We build the structure. We reach the glass ceiling And then we realize, oh, all that work was unnecessary with hindsight. So as your teacher, I'm telling you with foresight, all of this hard work of fighting with yourself inside out and getting smacked upside the head by life itself is unnecessary. Stop now and say, where am I coming from? You know? Am I coming from my judgment? Am I coming from my non-acceptance? Am I coming from my ego in answering this? Or you can say, am I coming from, what is that word again, Demi?
Which one?
That word, that one word that I said is the cornerstone of not coming from your ego. Okay. Am I coming from self-respect?
Self-respect.
Am I coming from myself? Am I coming from who I want to be? Am I coming from the nicer version of myself that I actually think I am inside when the world isn't pressurizing me to be this awful person who makes a lot of money? Because whether you make a lot of money or not, whether you want to make a lot of money or not, whether you have a lot of money or not, you always still have the choice to be a wonderful human being. Money isn't determining that. You are. Isn't that so? Yeah. So, regardless of bank balance, the choice, regardless of rank and status, there is this choice to come from self-respect. And we know how this works. Traditions have been built on it. When they were colonizing Africa, they shook hands first, and then they drew up a treaty. And after they shook hands and divided Africa up, they all went and they wrote it down. But the shaking hands was what determined it. Yeah. And because they shook hands on it, we all learned now that we must live without our backs to the wall, you know? We must watch our backs. We must check who's taking what, who's stealing what, when and where. And the fact is that nobody can actually steal anything from you. Not anything you're going to take with you when you die anyway. And what you will take with you is that consciousness that you are shifting and changing inside out. Every time you come from a space of, I choose self-respect, I choose to come from that better version of me, you are changing your structure inside out. You are changing your cellular level memory of you. You are changing an event that sits in the now moment and exists as past life, current life, and future life simultaneously. And we don't know that because we are taught that if we want to create change, there must be something tangible outside. But when we create this change inside, we actually begin to take charge of existing pain in the body and our capacity to manage any other physical pain as it arrives out of the universe, or emotional pain as it arrives out of the universe. The capacity to manage pain. You can't ever avoid pain. This is the cut level, people. You know, this is where you come to experience, and pain must be part of that experience because that is the duality. But when we start shifting and changing the awareness of where we're coming from inside, then this body's strength, its fragility becomes harmonized. It starts to work together, and the management of pain becomes easier. So everybody wants to avoid pain. They get their hearts broken and they're avoiding partnership for the rest of their lives. They get fired from a job, so now they're trying to find an employer who will need them and depend on them and never fire them. Everybody's looking for some guarantee that whatever decision they move into next will hold no pain. And so we now have an attachment to I don't want pain, while holding on to the attachment that creates pain in the first place. So rather we should invest all of that energy into becoming aware that pain is part of the duality, and if I go inside and start coming from there, the ability to manage it as it exists on the tangible level of the world anyway, this grand illusion called life, that becomes real. More importantly, the ability to manage pain then shifts you out of a specific spectrum of pain into a new level of living where pain actually doesn't seem to exist. And this is why it is said meditation leads to bliss. Because raising your vibration out of all of the petty dramas of the ego-based system takes you here where that kind of pain doesn't really exist. It takes you out of survival mechanism And survival mechanism is the defense mechanism. Survival mechanism is I must be aware of everything happening around me so that I can live through it. Not I must be aware of everything around me so I can experience it fully. Huge difference between those two attitudes. So in meditation, we are practicing living this fully so that I can know something, so I can become something, so I can practice something. And everything takes practice. I know. Sometimes it takes practice for years and years and years and years, and that requires patience, which I am still learning. But why does it require practice? It requires practice because inside of ourselves, where we have lived the same thing so often, over and over and over again, it's like we're untelling one story and putting in a new one. And then sometimes we're retelling that story and endorsing it and entrenching it. So it takes practice to dislodge things. So it's like an addiction. I smoke, right? So very difficult for me to give up smoking unless I'm on pilgrimage, and then I'm so happy I don't need to smoke. I don't have to dislodge anything. I don't even have to practice. I'm just so content with myself. And then I realize, oh, when I'm happy, when I'm interacting with what truly raises my passion, I'm not going back to that ridiculous ego drama of addiction. And if I could change my cellular body so that I feel like I'm living on pilgrimage all the time, I'll stop smoking. Except that I come home and then there's, gutters to clean and dishes to wash and hoof to get rid of. And so the real world takes its toll. And it's hard work in the real world to remind myself, keep your consciousness on pilgrimage, girl. Keep your consciousness in constant interaction with sacred spaces so that you are always excited. And then of course I know that that's unreasonable. If I am permanently excited, you will have to peel me off the roof at some point. I will be exhausted. We know that we can't live the highs all the time, and we can't live the lows all the time. And so this work is about coming into a balance. And it takes practice, not just to come into balance, but to stay in balance, regardless of what's going on around us. So that whole yin and yang story, the Shiv and Shakti. Some days you'll be Shiv and yang, some days you'll be Shakti and yin, but mostly you have the choice to be both. To bring the logic of the yang energy and the creativity of the yin energy into harmony with each other and work with that. And then those are the best moments. Those are the moments of feeling like you're fully alive. And the more of those we string together, the more we say, I'm living intentionally. I'm living mindfully. I'm living. I'm living in balance. Big drama, that one. Balance. It's always an issue. But the more we do that, the more of those moments that become real inside out, the more the body accepts that that balance is actually okay. That I don't need the ego drama of extremes. That I can be balanced and joyful at the same time. Because balance doesn't mean neutral. Balance doesn't mean absence of the highs and lows. Balance means I can view them and I can take what I choose from them. I can experience them without being so completely consumed by them. That I can participate, I can hold the space, I can engage, but who I am is doing that, not whatever the experience is doing. So there is an element of self-management that allows me to manage the experience rather than it controlling me. And all of this comes right back to, what is the consciousness based on? Where are you coming from? In every moment that says, I choose the ego judgment side, the fear-based side, or I choose this better version of me. Now, somebody put it on Facebook recently, and if it's on Facebook, it must be true. Right? This is like a policy in the center. If it's on Facebook, it must be true. That there is always another version of me, and that version of me will always require courage. It always requires courage. And when I look at that word, and we went to France recently, and the word courage, I look at it and I look at where it comes from and how it's working, and I think, oh, it says at every age, at every cycle of my life, I reach for a new peace. I reach for a new sanctuary within myself. And I have to be brave to do that, in the face of this ego drama that the whole world is operating on. If I want that peace, if I want that sanctuary of self, if I want to wake up every morning liking who I am, then yes, it's going to take a little courage. It's going to take the practice of being that inside out in the various ages and cycles that I have to go through. So at puberty, I might not be able to create the same kind of peace that I can create at 25 or 55. Thank you. Just make me a little bit older. But at every stage, there's that set of events in our lives, that set of experiences that speaks to what kind of peace we can create there. So everybody in the room who is in the network, who's at a different stage and age and cycle of their lives, must seek for themselves. What is it that creates my peace now? It won't be the same as everybody else's. And when you're a couple like Clyde and Maris, then best you have agreement about that. Because if one of you is peaceful and the other one isn't, we have trouble. And then when you live with me, best you have agreement about that. Because if I'm not peaceful, then we all have trouble. See, this is the problem with trouble. It's so allergic. It just like goes around. It goes viral very easily. And if it's on Facebook and it goes viral, then even more easily. And then you know how true that gets. And the truth, whether it is true or not, flies around the universe so quickly to contaminate everything. And one of the reasons it can do that is nobody is stopping in consciousness to say, if I share this, if I spread the word on this, am I doing the right thing? Am I going closer to a space of being kind and being compassionate, being the better version of myself? Or, this is just me getting more attention. This is me just making more statements. This is me just getting excited along with everybody else, even if I haven't read the whole article. So the way we impact on the world and the way we impact of ourselves is so completely aligned. Gandhi said you have to be the change you want to see in the world. And I like it when people say clever things. So whatever it is we want to see outside, we have to go inside first and see where in that foundation is it changing. And if the foundation is not changing, the building is going to collapse. One strong wind and that building is shaking. Now we know there are natural disasters happening all over the world right now, mainly because our relationship with the universe, with the earth as we know it, has been based on that very same ego foundation. And we can see it in our environment. 2016 was the year of us seeing it in ourselves. 2017 is the year of us healing it in ourselves. And as we heal ourselves, so too we will impact on the earth. So climate change is very real inside out. You do not need a Paris Treaty to come into balance inside. We might need the Paris Treaty to come into balance outside. But upholding that treaty inside out is the work of every individual in the mass consciousness. So now that we've told you how important you are in the universe, after having said how insignificant you are in the universe in previous sessions, we can meditate. Let's take a nice deep breath in and let's get grounded. Feet flat on the floor, spine straight, so that you are breathing deeply and consciously. And as consciously as possible, feel the breath going in, feel the chakras and the soles of your feet getting connected to the floor, getting connected to the earth. And even as you do that, we want to add the equal and opposite. The law of mutuality says that even as I connect fully to the earth, so too do I connect fully to my higher self, to my presence in spirit, or my presence in the universe as a higher self, as soul. So I, the soul, connects to the earth, and here from your crown chakra at the top of your head, and you can place your fingers on it if you want to activate it. I want you to tap on it 3 times if you want to activate it manually. And we open the crown chakra to become connected to my own presence, to become connected to I as the higher self. I, the soul, who is the now moment. So let's do that again. We're breathing in nice and deep, connecting yourself to the earth by getting grounded. And then, here in your crown chakra, opening up your crown chakra with intention or with a manual intervention by tapping on your crown chakra 3 times. And there in your mind's eye, becoming aware of it blossoming exactly like a flower and connecting you to your higher self, to your own source self. And immediately we do that, you become a channel of energy from the top of your head to the soles of your feet and upward from the top of your head and downward from the soles of your feet. Immediately we do that, there in your mind's eye, I want you to see yourself as a beam of light that extends infinitely in both directions. I am. This beam of light flows upward and downward and through you. Now, as you know, this beam of light, like everything in the universe, must curve in on itself. The portion you are looking at is a very small part of a huge circle. So there where you are, it appears that this beam of light is going straight down and straight up. And the part that we call you, the part that you identify with as I am, is the part that is manifest, that is flowing over and through this physical body that identifies you as being here, present. And yet that beam of light continues endlessly in a golden spiral. So just breathe gently and take a moment to feel yourself connected to the earth, connected to yourself as source, and to feel the infinity of the flow, to make sense of, to absorb in your cellular memory this understanding that what you see there as you is part of an eternal flow, that it continues all the way above you and all the way below you as it passes through you. And that the consciousness, as it exists as you, as it has been named as you, automatically works in harmony with everything else. That it is always part of that flow, connecting you to the source of you and to all of the experience of you. So there in your mind's eye, make that picture as clear as possible. See your own eternity and infinity as detailed as you can. As part of that golden spiral, make it as clear as possible in your mind's eye so that we can move into the feeling of it, of taking that information into your cellular body. Make the picture of yourself as being in a continuous, constant flow that is uniquely you and in harmony with everything around it. Make that picture in your mind's eye as clear as possible. You can give it a color and see yourself in a golden spiral. You can make the light bolder and brighter. I am a star that is shining in a golden spiral. The most important thing is to see that your physical form, as you identify it in this lifetime, is in fact part of an entire flow. It is the incarnated part that you know. It is an expression of who you are as you are connected to yourself as source and as you are connected to the earth plane as your environment of experiencing. And let this sink in. Just breathe gently and let it sink in. There are so many ramifications to absorbing this understanding completely. To letting every cell in your body know that as a physical body, it has eternity and infinity available to it, flowing through it as life force, as prana, as consciousness, with every breath. And if there are any physical sensations at any of the chakra points in your body, simply allow it to be. Let your body respond naturally, innately. Let your spiritual bodies respond. Your entire auric field will automatically respond to you acknowledging that you are this consistent and constant, eternal and infinite flow, and not just a physical incarnated identity. And if you want to make the picture a little more detailed, tune in to the flow inside, where the flow goes from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, where it goes through 308 chakras, especially for meditation purposes, through all of the primary chakras, your crown chakra, your third eye chakra, your throat chakra, your mediating heart chakra, your solar plexus chakra, the sacral chakra, the base chakra. You can even feel it going into the chakras in your knees, those chakras of humility, the chakras in your ankles, the chakras of flexibility, and all the way down to the soles in your feet. You may not be able to receive a sensation of it flowing upward and downward beyond your physical body. But in your mind's eye, you can picture it. You can picture this long beam of light flowing endlessly where you cannot see the ends. You cannot see where it begins, and you cannot see where it ends. You cannot feel where it begins, and you cannot feel where it ends. And you must make up your mind to accept that it goes where this consciousness as you are cannot follow. I cannot follow it into eternity and infinity. I can choose to accept that it is. I can choose to debate, argue, experiment with this framework of my identity. This framework of who I am. That is the underlying founding structure of what I am and what I am doing. Because there in your mind's eye, you can now give the person you see there a name. You can give it all of the roles that it is playing in this lifetime. You can see the personality of it, the character of it, the routine, the behaviors, the preferences. Now you can flesh out the story of the body over which and through which that beam of light flows. And you can say, I am that. I recognize myself. And then we must step back again. So step back for a moment and observe that self. And once again, see that entire beam of light flowing over it and through it, making everything, the personality, the character, the roles, the routine, the behaviors, the conditioning, the attitudes, making all of that subject to an eternal and infinite flow. And now you may say, I am this person in that environment. I am this person in that context. I can observe myself in that context. And still just viewing yourself in your mind's eye, I want you to change the color of the flow going from the top of your head all the way through your physical being and your auric field and into the ground. There where you are receiving it in your crown, allow it to change. It can change intuitively into whatever color or vibration or frequency you require. Or you can make a decision, a choice, that I want it to go from gold to blue or gold to red. It doesn't signify what color you choose or what color it becomes. Focus in on the experience of the color changing as a result of your thought or intention. Focus on the experience of the color changing as a result of my suggestion or instruction. And if you are having difficulty with the change, in perceiving it and experiencing it, then let us do it again. I change the flow around me from gold to blue, from white to orange, from yellow to green. Whatever the shift and change, observe the experience and how almost instantaneous it is in the context of eternity and infinity. Outside of the concept of time and within the context of focused intention, observe how instantaneous it is. Observe how instantaneous it becomes when you change the foundation of the intention. And while you are there, whatever color is flowing through you and over you in this infinite, eternal stream of consciousness or intelligence, use it. Take it into all of your primary chakras to nourish your energy body. Again, intention. I receive this energy. I receive this intelligence. I receive this consciousness in all of my chakras to balance them with each other. I receive the flow of the universe in accordance with my needs. I receive the energy of my higher self in accordance with my needs. Or you can say, I receive what I need. I take what I require. I allow myself to blossom. And because we are observing, we allow the short-term memory to record information where there are shifts and changes to the physical body. Any natural shifts and changes to what you are sensing, feeling, experiencing, even seeing in your mind's eye. If the color changes of its own accord again, if there is a new tangible sensation of the air around you, if the palms of your hands suddenly feel full, if your skin, as the largest breathing organ and largest sensory perceptual organ, starts to react or respond to the energetic shifts around you, We don't need to know what it all means, but we can experience it, record it in our cellular memory, and allow something wonderfully new and positive to accumulate. A regular reminder that I am presence in an eternal and infinite flow. And of course, even as you are absorbing this energy into your chakras, you may take it into your physical body. You may feed it to every cell, every organ and system. We can put it into every circulation system. So you may breathe it in or absorb it through your skin, and remember it's flowing through you. So you can send it into all of your arteries to make your blood more red. You can send it into your veins to open up the flow and to ease the detoxification of the gases, the air in your system. You can send it to your lungs to ease any tightness and to aid with conscious breathing. You can send it anywhere with intention. Send it to your heart center to ease some of the barriers and boundaries. Send it into your shoulders to lift up some of the monkeys and ease the tension. Send it to both sides of your brain to serve their communication with each other. You can send it into all of your cells to simply practice. I nourish my cellular body. I bring new vitality to it. Give it a space of rest, a space of revitalizing, a space of renewing, a space of allowing it to unclutter what it no longer requires, what distresses it or distorts it. And all the while, stay there in that moment, in this intentional moment, in the grand context of oneness with yourself, an eternal, infinite being in constant flow, infusing energy and healing into this momentary, limited, incarnated self. And keep the flow going, just breathing and relaxing, and flowing more and more easily and smoothly as you maintain those intentions, as you maintain the picture in your mind's eye, maintain the sensing. Don't concentrate so hard. Relax. Allow yourself to experience your own intelligence at a spirit level, at a mental level, at an emotional level, and at a physical level, working automatically, involuntarily, as a team, doing what comes naturally. And if there is a quiet yearning in the midst of that, allow that to be too. A moment of rest usually comes with a yearning, usually comes with an impetus for the more. Allow it. And even as you allow it, observe as your energy body, as the flow over you and around you responds to the desire, the need, the yearning for the more. And there is no doing. There is just being, observing, experiencing, allowing, receiving, automatically sending. All of these processes happening while you are engaged in not doing, while you are busy with breathing and intending. And now we give your brain, your short-term memory, a specific instruction to remember and to realign you with this moment of intending, this moment of an eternal, infinite context. To remind you of your true identity. When you become over-aware of the physical plane, context, and environment. I am mindfully reminded of my origins. I am reminded to be soul. I am reminded to be eternal and infinite. And as all of these things are happening, rest, breathe, take a few moments to be with yourself. And feel free to slide into deeper and deeper relaxation. Just sliding deeper and deeper and deeper into sleep. Simply allowing everything that is happening to happen, to be. Just allowing the flow to flow. Just breathing and relaxing. And then very gradually and very kindly bring yourself back into the now moment and an awareness of yourself being present eternally and infinitely with yourself.